Hi everyone, welcome to the video. And today we have Amit with us, and we are going to discuss about DevOps. A lot of people message me like bring someone to DevOps, so we are connecting with Amit. Amit is a working professional at Accenture as a DevOps engineer. He's working at Accenture from last more than 2 years now, and we are going to discuss about how someone can learn DevOps, how someone can get into that industry, what are the tools you have to learn, salary expectations, and the most common question that I heard about this. There are DevOps jobs for freshers or not, and a lot of things. So that we're going to discuss with Amit. So hey Amit, you can start with the introduction to the audience.
Yeah. Thanks, Ganesh, for calling me to this podcast. It would be my pleasure to explain those things. Just to give you a little bit of introduction of me, I'm a 2021 year pass out, and I started my journey at Accenture. Before that, I was very much interested into AI and stuffs. So I was also a sci-fi speaker at IIT Bombay in 2019. I had my huge inclination towards machine learning and deep learning side. Just to give a little bit background from where I came to this field, DevOps was not that from the very beginning. I didn't jump into directly into DevOps. That is what people have to note it. So I was very much interested into AI, machine learning, did few projects, and got into Accenture in September 2021. So from there, my journey started into one of the client, which was related to insurance domain. So I had to
Okay.
work in a programming language which is very much similar to Java. So from there, my journey started building a product for them, which is a claim center or these, like we have LIC in India. Same way, for whole globe there is a guideware insurance company. So for that, there was a client for which we have to build this whole product from scratch, like claim center, billing center, and policy center. In that, I got exposure by learning those few technologies, which was very much similar to Java, which is Gosu programming language. You wouldn't have heard it, but it is an industry accepted language. So I had to work and prepare those basic requirements which were there to fulfill those requirements from business. Like these are the insurance things that they were looking for. So initially I started with there, and then later point of while developing those things, we got exposure of this pipeline CI/CD tools, which we later on got into it. And in my project, I would be using Azure DevOps. So those things I got exposure from Accenture only after working 6 months. It was not like directly coming into Accenture and working on DevOps tools and technologies. Before that, I was developing things, and after getting some hands-on of how things work at core level, then we switch to make it more efficient for our end users. This is how my journey been like, and yeah, I have done with that project at this moment. And yeah, just to inform, it's been 2 weeks. I've started working for this new client, which is Google. I have to go to this Google office and represent. They are building this Google wallet.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm part of that team at Bangalore currently. Manish.
Big congratulations for that. Yeah, that's
Thanks.
a huge. I think you can get as achievement as a developer who started with
Mm,
Accenture and then working at with a Google client for the particular platform or wallet that whatever that you are building. So that's a great
mm,
stuff. So, like,
mm,
tell us about like how you get the opportunity working at Accenture. Is it on campus, off campus? How
mm.
you get selected and get opportunity? Or
Yeah, sure. So Accenture has this off-campus. It was not an on-campus opportunity for me. It was an off-campus. They basically hired kind of two roles they hire for, ASE and SE. Mine was different. It was some custom software analyst role from the very beginning. So for them, you can consider it as an advanced software engineer, which enforces hire, something like that, to just give a perspective. So it was
yeah,
that role. It had kind of 5 rounds of interview, seeing my experience into machine learning and all those achievements which I had done in that college days. So I got into this. Do I need you to explain the whole process of interview? If you want, I can explain that as well.
yeah, sure,
Or
definitely.
yeah. So first round was a shortlisting round. Like all off campus hiring, we would be like applying it directly. And first round was basic aptitude, reasoning, and all communications thing. First round, five sections were there. Second round was basically you solving those basic coding questions. So it
Yeah,
was an
DSA problems.
expectation. Yeah, it was an expectation from me as well to solve DSA. So three questions of DSA were there. Two were easy and one was medium level lead code. So they don't usually ask it for a fresher role at as ASE or some other job role, but for this they were asking. Then their third round was communication round. So it was basically understanding how we would be able to communicate with clients, because at the end of the day you have to support your clients, right?
Yeah.
So that communication round was there. Fourth round was solely based on my resume and all the projects which I mentioned, and those I was very much confident enough. So I worked on those things, like all those supervised learning, unsupervised learning, machine learning stuffs, which we go and start learning in freshman year. So I had done few things there, so was able to clear those. That was the most fun part for my fourth round. They got like, they were happy, so I felt that I would be able to make it. So yeah,
Yeah.
then fifth round was, yeah, normal discussion that yeah, you have done it and something like that. So these
Yeah.
five
Great.
rounds of interview.
Yeah. And is there something that like that the common question that I get as a people from who are applied to Accenture or companies from lot of I also is there something like you applied to Accenture and you gave an exam, then Accenture I think it takes more time to give you reply, 6 months or 5 months,
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'll explain that. So my this whole process started. I'm taking you back to 2021. So I
Okay.
gave my this written test and everything in January month. I'm just giving you the whole timeline how it happened for me,
Okay.
so
Okay.
you'll get an idea.
Yeah.
So January, three rounds of interview were done. February and last 4 5 rounds were interview were done. Were completed in the February, end of February basically. And then in the month of, I guess, May, I got like this. You have been shortlisted and your further onboarding process would be started May end. And see the difference is February till May, I haven't received anything in this while I was applying to other many other companies like NetMeds were there, and all other companies were there. Yeah, but the later point of time in May, they told me that yeah, you have been shortlisted something, and from June they started this onboarding process. Just see the whole gap here, for February, March, and then May. And I joined Accenture, they gave me joining date as 3rd of September 2021. So yeah, I understand that happens. They kind of what I
Yeah.
came to know is in batches they would be pulling in people. There were people who were joined in June batch, and then I was someone who got into September batch. So in
September.
this
Yeah.
while I would give a suggestion to all my juniors. Yeah, all my juniors to start applying to other company. Don't get disheartened. Be patient enough. Not limiting yourself to this particular company. Keep applying to other companies as well, as it is going to help you. Eventually, Accenture process definitely takes time. I don't know, maybe some client process or which project they are going to allocate you. It depends on that as well. Few people got like early employment opportunities as well, but their project was not that good or something. It totally solely depends on
Yeah.
which project you are getting into. For me, it was a project that was having more technical, that requires more technical expertise. So maybe that was the case. But I didn't restricted myself to Accenture only. I kept on applying to other companies as well, and was patient enough. And later on, I came to the decision that yeah, this is the best at the moment I can get.
Okay, that's great. And like at the initial level, is there something like you get training from Accenture, like 2 or 3 months? In which domain that you get trained? Because you are already familiar with Python, AIML. So in which domain they train you? Is like Java or something?
Again, Ganesh, to be very frank with you, so it again depends on the which project they want. It doesn't depend like what skill sets you have in present, what project they have in bucket. It totally depends on that. For example, they have a client
Okay.
which whose project requirements are of Java, and they have hired you something. It also depends on which level you have been hired for. Like ASC level, then there would be a 6 months of training, 6 months of training in Java, basically Java and backend training they give, and then you get allocated to a project. For me, it was a 2 months of training in Java, and then I directly got into the client project, because I was able to. They had some assessments basically, Ganesh. So if you are able to clear it, they give you basically three chances to clear it. I was able to clear it on the first go itself. So less number of months were there for me as a trainee, 2 months, but usually it can last from 2 to 6 months. And it this training would be depending on the which project they want you to get allocated
That's great. Yeah. And like
to.
let's start your about DevOps journey, like how it started, like which project you
Mhm.
allocated, then how you started DevOps, and like
Mhm.
is Python and AI/ML domain is completely different, and DevOps is something you
Mhm.
look into deployment, security, scalability in that terms. So how this shift happens, and like how it started. Tell
Yeah,
us
sure.
about that.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So September, as you know, that I joined September 21, 2 months of training was there in Java, and then basic. In 2 months, we won't be able to give all those trainings, but yeah, it was. I was able to catch up on those things, and later I got into this insurance domain project, which was dealing with all the insurance products in US and London, UK market basically. So in
Okay.
that particular thing, I didn't directly jumped into DevOps and things as such. For first 6 months, 7 months, I was into developing features there, like basic features like claim center. I was working on this claim center product where you would be dealing with the claims, check creation, and invoice generation, all those things. And there, the programming language was Gosu programming language, which was very much similar to Java. So in the initial 6 months, we were coding, we were deploying everything on Jira, and we were having those basic story points and stories, and we would be deploying codes into the production, and no DevOps as such for first 6 months. Later point of time, after one, we would be having release cycles, Ganesh. So
Okay.
after working there for 6 months, as being a fresher, like they were not encouraging me to get into the directly core development. So first few 6 months, I was shadowing my senior developers there. Big AD projects and AM projects were there. So to make big enhancements in code, I had to get approval, and all those things were there. For 6 months, it was kind of a learning phase for me. Later point of time, they have started using this Azure DevOps platform itself. For my personal things, I was very much into AWS. Previously, I've learned this
Yeah.
AWS and all, but I didn't had any exposure in Azure. So being the client was very much reluctant to go with the Azure platform. So I had to learn on those things like how to schedule pipelines and all those basic things, DevOps terminologies. I got introduced while after only then when they introduced this Azure thing into our project. So now my task was to create those RFC, like we call that change as RFC in this project. RFC is release functional cycle or something, in which we would be creating a change in that particular time zone. It would be getting approved because we were serving US clients. So at 6:37 later point of time, it should be getting approved, and we were responsible to merge it. So my thing was not solely depend on DevOps development. I was uh, involved in the process of developing things as well as deploying. So this release and everything would be happening on weekends. I would be scheduling those pipelines, getting approvals. This in this way, I got introduced to DevOps, and later point of time, I was more inclined to this Azure and DevOps, and started learning on my own. All those basic things like why we are doing what we are doing basically. So it was again 2022 March April. Then I started learning this Azure DevOps and came to know that most of the functionalities on all these platforms. I was aware about AWS, but Azure, few of the functionalities I was able to make out that yeah, these are similar to AWS services. So that's what I got started with DevOps here, with all those pipeline management things and all, basically writing YML files we wrote for scripting for to run that particular pipeline. So that way I got introduced to DevOps here.
That's great. And like I think a lot of people in the beginning learn AWS. Similarly, I have exposure in AWS, not in depth, but just the beginning. But a lot of MNCs and companies just like Accenture and the clients mostly force or focus on the Azure, another Microsoft product. So I think Azure is something recently get more value in the
Popular.
IT field. Not recently, lot of time, but yeah, like people have to look into it. Like Azure is also better option to deployment and that stuff. Like and another thing, like which technology you started learning as a DevOps when you started, just like you started with setting CI/CD pipelines, then you shift to Docker, and then cloud or something. Just like which tool? They tell us about the tools that you initially learn in your journey to towards shifting to it DevOps.
Yeah, so to counter on that thing, Azure and AWS topic, uh, It is project dependent, but major share AWS is having major share. Like most companies in our Accenture only, this particular client was focusing on Azure, but other
Okay.
clients were there where AWS was getting this preference. And now coming to your second questions, that Docker and everything, like we were Dockerizing our minimal, like this claim center application would be having few features which we would be Dockerizing in. And it was not a normal, like in personal project, we can do things like completely Docker, creating images out of our personal portfolio, something personal project, we can do it more frequently. But it was not the case in this particular project. We had to deploy small parts of it. Like there were some initial features that were like very much huge, that could have bring very huge change in the claim center application itself. So we had to dockerize those particular things in small images and convert it into, through we were using this Jenkins for CI/CD, and then converting into those images and then deploying it for our seniors to evaluate further that this is fine, and then after approval it gets merged. It's a simple it's not core process that we would be following here, but on feature wise we would be doing things, not on the whole application, because whole application would be a very big thing to dockerize and do those process which we
Yeah,
learn as
got it.
being a DevOps professional. Yeah.
Depends on the project feature that you want to
Mhm.
build, and that's how you start with the building and deploying the also. So, like
Yes.
you have right now great exposure in DevOps, the core industry that you're working in as a DevOps engineer. So, if someone want to start their journey into DevOps, so initially, like tell us any particular roadmap, not a roadmap exactly, but what tools they can start. Or here is a question for a lot of people. Ask just first learn development, just like Node.js, Java or something, then shift to DevOps, or directly you can switch to DevOps, just like learning text, setting up CI/CD pipelines and Docker. What you suggest? First to learn how to build something, then learn deployment stuff, or you can directly jump into deployment.
Yeah, so Ganesh, to break your question into multiple parts, I'll directly jump to the first part of it, like how to start if you want to, being a fresher, how you want to get into DevOps role. Most of them directly focus on tools and technologies like Docker, Kubernetes. To be very frank, that we would have used very less of Kubernetes into the project in Accenture, but in my personal
Okay.
projects I have been using Kubernetes. So that is what one mistake I see people committing at the very beginning of this, directly focusing on tools and technologies. The best part to start with DevOps is Linux. You have to be very much comfortable with Linux, this all basic commands at least. This can be a path. I can suggest Linux, then shell scripting and computer networkings. If you focus
Okay.
on these three first, yeah, then your path would be easy. It's just like learning React JS and not knowing JavaScript.
JavaScript.
So I'm just giving you an analogy that people start focusing on Docker, Kubernetes. It is the later part of the game which you have to dive into. First you need to be very much proficient in scripting. What DevOps actually is, you would not be doing things directly on the UI. As you are familiar of AWS, you would be having that command prompt and writing all our commands and learning, doing things from there itself. So it makes the process fast. So to make the process fast, Linux should be your foremost thing that you should be focusing on, and then shell scripting, writing how to manage those files. If you get like multiple files, there's no point dockerizing those files if you are not knowing how to edit it, like how to use that basic commands of vi
Use that.
editor and
Yeah.
vim editor. Yeah. So Linux, shell scripting, and computer networking. People ignore these three parts, which are the core of being a DevOps engineer. DevOps engineer is nothing. At the end of the day, you have to ease out the process for your developers, and at the end of the day, again, you have to ease out the process at client side as well. You are kind of a
Okay.
mediator between two parties. So for that you need, then answering on this point we can answer the second question, like you have to be familiar with developer, being development familiar with the
Development.
development basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So directly you can go, you can write whatever developer has given you certain set of lines of codes or file. You can directly go and start scripting that, or making amendments in basically
Yeah.
those files. But if you are aware about the ifs and how, why those particular lines were written, and how we can remove those few particular JavaScript lines from the code, so that it creates less burden on the server. Okay, I'll
Okay.
explain you more. Consider our developer has written this particular 50 lines of codes, and he told you that this is the way we have written it, and you have to deploy it into the cloud, maybe Azure, maybe AWS, anything. So for Dockerizing also, there can be few functionalities which would be having more dependencies, and you have to sort out all those dependencies before deploying it to the production code or production cloud. So to clear out on dependencies, you should be having as basic understanding. Not the you could not be having everything what developer has done, but at least some basic functionalities at
Basics.
like
Yeah.
line 36. Yeah, line 36, line 37 has these two functionalities which can be implemented. We can ask them questions if there are any other ways we can implement that, because there are many other dependencies which would create a burden on server. So something like that we could ask developers, so they would be coming with that, yeah, we can do this way, that way. So that kind of communication should be there, and that communication would only be there if you are having a basic knowledge of how development goes, how that
Works.
cycle flows, how the requirement was. So DevOps is like master of like none but jack of all trades kind of that. So you should be
Got it.
knowing those basic intricacies, what which were involved in the code writing code, process of writing code basically. So that is the second part I would like to answer. And third part is, to get into this DevOps role, you should not be targeting a particular DevOps role, because there can be multiple roles have been come up, like system administrator is there, DevOps engineer is there, then SRE is coming into limelight. And to be very clear on this, Ganesh, it totally depends on which company you are joining and which project it is. There can be,
Yeah.
if there can be a project, there can be a role where you have to write all the scripting. For my case, there were no scripting as such, but I know that scripting is very much important in DevOps. So for me, I was directly doing things with Azure DevOps, and most of the services were there, and we were using it. But for others, it would be a system administrator role where you have to write each and every commands in Linux command prompt, and convert those files and do operations on those files. So system administrator, DevOps engineer, SRE, these can be a job roles, but it depends on company which particular domain they are serving into. So there can be a project like mine. It was in insurance. Now currently I'm into this Google Wallet. There's nothing relation between this my last project and into this project. We are building things again from scratch. We would be deploying in GCP maybe. So again I have to learn. So continuous learning curve would be there. It is not going to be easy. It is going to be frustrating sometimes as well. That again, whatever you have learned, that is of no use, kind of no use, if basic fundamentals would always be used. So those fundamentals I already talked about: computer networks, Linux, and shell scripting. I'm repeating
Shell
myself, but
scripting.
yeah, these are the core pillars of DevOps. You should be familiar of, and on top of that, you can build buildings of AWS, Azure, GCP. And I've started working with GCP also. That most of the services are very much same. So yeah, we can go that way, Ganesh. If any questions, you can ask. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was able to explain you the
Yeah, yeah, like
intricacies.
clearly, clearly. I
Mhm.
just want to know, is there any tools that you want to add, just like Linux, shell scripting,
Mhm.
networking?
Mhm.
Then what
Yeah,
are the
yeah,
next steps? CI/CD
yeah,
pipelines,
yeah,
Docker, Kubernetes.
yeah. So basically, if you are that was my next point. I just completely forgot. You have built on these three fundamentals, which was Linux, shell scripting, computer networks. Later point of time, you have to go with tools like for CI/CD. I would be suggesting Jenkins, to go with Jenkins, and then next is the Docker for container to containerize your basically apps. You should be going to Docker, and then container orchestration, you can use Kubernetes. So there can be two types of learning. Either you go deep into Docker, and if you completely dive deeper into it, it is going to take time. Get the basic gist of it and start with Kubernetes. Get basic gist
Kubernetes.
of it, then move to the next part of it, because tools would come and go. That there can be different other tools from for CI/CD pipeline as well. There is GitLab, which we were
Yeah.
using here. So Jenkins, get basic hold of it. One particular tool for this CI/CD pipeline thing, Jenkins. Then Docker for a container images and all those things, and orchestration, Kubernetes, basic knowledge of Kubernetes. Start with that, and then you can go with Ansible, Prometheus for monitoring and all those things. But that is the later point of game. first you should be focusing on CI/CD pipeline Jenkins, then this what Docker for
Docker.
images or and then container orchestration Kubernetes. After that, we can slowly shift to the infrastructure as a code like Prometheus or CloudFront for AWS. It is platform dependent. Like it would be Cloud Formation for AWS, and then Azure it would be something else. I'm not aware of about that yet. But yeah, infrastructure as a code would be a next thing that you can go into.
Okay. And
Yes.
asking you from the developer perspective, I use GitHub Action mostly in CI/CD thing. So, have you any
Mhm.
work experience with GitHub Action, and do you suggest to work with GitHub Actions or just shift to a little bit to Jenkins?
Yeah, like Jenkins, I have a lot of exposure working with Jenkins. I think those proxy and groovy files for Jenkins and basically pipeline management. So GitHub Actions, I didn't got a lot of exposure as such, but yeah, I would just suggest you like there can be multiple. The GitHub Actions is very much in demand, and if you are comfortable with one of the CI/CD this tool, then it is easy to shift to GitHub Actions and
Another
then
technology.
GitLab.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is you should not be limiting yourself to GitHub Actions or Jenkins or something. That's what I came to know while I was very much interested in AWS, but I got into Azure from project perspective. Then I got to know that most of the services are very much similar. So in that way you can consider like GitHub Actions is also fine. I haven't used that much GitHub Actions,
Okay.
so
Okay.
won't be able to make a
So,
comment on that.
yeah. For the audience, I want to highlight 2 points. First, the actual tools and roadmap that Amit suggests. First, go with the basics, Linux, shell scripting, and networking. Then slowly shift to CI/CD pipelines, Docker, container orchestrations, Kubernetes, and then infrastructure like cloud and Prometheus that you suggest. Another point that Amit suggested that there are multiple tools to learn in DevOps, but focus on particular tools. If you know the particular tool, just like GitHub Actions or Jenkins, you can switch, and lot of similarities that particular tool shared with us.
Mm.
The working is same. The result you will get is same. You can modify that, but familiar yourself with a particular tool, then you can switch according to project or anything that you want to working on. So yeah, these two things. And another, is there fresher jobs available at the DevOps, uh, for DevOps market, or
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
particular experience to get into DevOps?
Yeah, so this is a question I've been asked by many people like freshers, how being a fresher we can get into this thing. So for me, I can give you basic tips that you should not be applying. There are people like for example, Ganesh, opening comes up, DevOps Engineer one, and there would be people who would go on there and apply it. Like thousands of people are applying there at that particular link. You should be profoundly making your resume in such a way that it is very much linked to the job description of it. First step would be that, and second step would be get in touch with the person who has posted it through email or through something. Get your resume to that person, and that way you would be able to distinguish yourself. That is a tip I would be suggesting to all the users here. Directly applying to a role would
Through
be
LinkedIn,
definitely, because I am
it's a bad thing.
yeah, not bad thing. You can get a role, but get an
Yeah,
interview, but the chances are very less because there are many people, thousands of resume. Just understand, being a recruiter point of view, you are getting thousands of resumes. You won't be able to filter out. Everyone has not having that much of time bandwidth to filter out. That's why, and then people complain that they were not able to make it. The best thing I would suggest them is prepare a small summary. Like you are working at some company or some other person is working at that company, write that summary. My name is this, I have done this, I would be able to do this, these are my achievements, and with those things, ping that person. Not that person individually, there can be 100 people in that company, and ping that person that
yeah,
this is the job role I'm very much interested into, can you please refer me. I'm just telling you how the refer process works. And if you are able to directly, cold emailing has definitely helped me a lot. Directly getting emails and sending all these things over email, like if you have a portfolio, you have a direct project link, that helps. You have to basically ease out the process for the recruiter. Getting my point? If you are
yeah, yeah.
applying it normally,
Completely agree.
normally normally. Like many people were getting into that whole bucket and it would be difficult. But if Ganesh is applying in a special way, like cold emailing or cold emailing a person with all the details, he doesn't have to make any effort. Your intention should be that recruiter should not be able to make any efforts. With that particular 4 5 lines or 10 lines, he would be able to make out that this candidate is a it is having worth of getting an interview. So
Okay.
that thing,
Yeah.
if you chase, then there are a lot of opportunities. I'm going to suggest like freshers, like there are a lot of opportunities. You would be getting those roles, but the thing is, you how you tailor your resume and how you tailor your approach, basically applying to things. So that makes a big difference, Danish.
Yeah. For the audience, I will give the short summary. Applying to companies through on LinkedIn and that way is not a bad thing, but it's not a proper way or right way you will get opportunity. Just go through who is hiring for the particular role. Go on LinkedIn, try to get their email address or uh, like go on LinkedIn and there is connect option note you can write to a person. This is a separate way and the most you can take a you will get better result if you go through that way. Cold emailing works for a lot of people, lot of developers that Amit as well share that cold emailing works a lot for him, so you can do that. And another stuff, uh, like don't just apply on the LinkedIn, try to put some extra efforts for that particular
Hmm.
job. And while
Hmm.
writing a email as well, put some projects or put resume or tailor your
Hmm.
resume in that way, so particular person will definitely look into it and will give the some positive response.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Hmm.
the next thing for on the resume and the project side, as a developer, if I know JavaScript, Node.js stuff, I will build some full stack application, some front end, back end, some databases, and I will deploy somewhere. So this is how I will build project and show proof of work to someone.
Hmm.
But what to do as a DevOps person,
Hmm.
because in DevOps side you have not to build front end, back end, you have to more into development Docker. So how someone can show
Hmm.
their work to through the project to hire recruiter or somewhere.
Yeah, so Ganesh, you already answered that question. Like you have developed a part of it. DevOps is the next thing of it. Like you have made a particular application. Let's consider a to-do app for now. You can quote it with any other app which you have developed. The best DevOps project would be that to-do app is being Dockerized, and then with the help of Kubernetes, you were able to kind of simulate those things into DevOps platform. You have deployed it into Azure or deployed into AWS
AWS.
with those pipeline and things. So that would now be a DevOps project. There cannot be any other project of DevOps. Like getting my point. You
Yeah,
have to
agree,
build
agree.
something. Yeah, you have to build something and you have to show your knowledge of tools, how you dockerize that particular application. That's what I was explaining you in my project. I was not able to dockerize the full application as it was serving billions of people, but you
Yeah,
can do it. So that dockerization, converting that particular application into images, breaking it down into Docker images and then orchestrating it and deploying it into some cloud, shows your skill sets, that this person has built this and deployed using these tools. And in that process you would be using multiple tools. That shows that the Ganesh is aware about these particular technologies. This way you can
yeah,
tailor your project, and it would be very easy for freshers as well. They would be making some projects. Just the next step they have to do, next step is dockerizing it or uh, publishing or putting it in on AWS. So that shows basically, Ganesh, one thing.
okay. That's for the audience who are looking into DevOps side. You can take this advice. You can take any small project built with JavaScript or any other programming language, and you have to understand how to set up into Dockerize, how to deploy it on the cloud, how you can use the orchestration and that stuff. That's how you can build project and show proof of work to someone. And the next thing, as a DevOps engineer, what are the resume mistakes that people did or people do that you want to share with them? Like how to avoid that mistakes. I don't want to share anything on it.
Yeah, so mistakes, I won't call them a mistake, but yeah, beginner being focused all on the tools. It would be very difficult, like Ganesh, if you write it like 100 set of codes into your resume, 100 set of
Yeah,
tools,
yeah,
sorry, into your resume, that these tools I have worked. But if you are writing Kubernetes in your resume directly that you have worked on Kubernetes, it would be very difficult. Trust me on this. Kubernetes is a vast ocean. You would not be knowing anything that we
Actually,
would not be able to figure out. No, like
yeah,
just a second. Just, am I audible?
yeah, yeah,
Ganesh?
yeah. You're audible.
Okay. Yeah. So where was I? Yeah, yeah. So this thing, like
Kubernetes.
people would be mentioning Kubernetes. Yeah. So Kubernetes, to be very precise, you should be mentioning what things you have done. What, like there can be multiple things that you have written some policies in it, or what basically configuration which you have used, which part of Kubernetes you have used. So depending like on your resume, on your project, you should be mentioning those details that I have used Prometheus for this infrastructure as a code for this particular part of my project. So that would be very much beneficial for the recruiter and the other person to consider yourself at least. If you directly like Kubernetes, it would be very difficult for them to know which part of Kubernetes you have worked on. So that is one tip I would be suggesting. And next thing is uh, being very honest in a resume. That if you are putting something which you won't be able to explain in interview, to be very frank with you, so it creates a negative impression in front of the recruiter. So
Recruiter.
yeah, yeah, you should be telling that this was the technology I worked for, and only certain part of it I was using into it, and then this is my personal project. So that creates a clarity between you and the interviewer. So these two tips basically, Ganesh, it helps.
I think that's a great tip because a lot of people write something that they don't know in terms
Mhm,
of thinking recruiter will be impressed if you know
mhm,
multiple databases, SQL, NoSQL, multiple programming languages, and multiple
mhm,
frameworks. So definitely, recruiter going to ask you whatever you put on resume, maybe project or maybe technology. So recruiter will ask you, do you know? And if you not able to answer, so it will create a bad impression for your profile. So maybe you did a great in a problem solving. You're a
mhm,
good communicator, but when you are giving a recruit interview and this happens, so maybe your chances are very low to get selection into that particular role. So be honest on the resume. And the another thing that you mentioned, just like don't mention a lot of tools, like learn about that. As you
mhm,
mentioned Kubernetes, a lot of people did the same thing, so that are great
mhm,
tips people will get. So definitely,
mhm,
yeah, yeah. And the next thing, like how you see the job market in 2024. Give me a both perspective as a DevOps engineer as well, and the for the uh, developers from the another market as well.
To answer this, Ganesh, I would be telling you there would be no shortcoming for the people who are having skills. But the skills now, the requirement would be huge from individuals. It is not like you are just knowing basic JavaScript and basic things, and then you would be able to get job. Now the expectation from an individual would be higher, and same goes with anything like DevOps as well as Dev. I can't go into the market saying I know these particular tools and I get a job. It's not going to work like that. You have to have the skill set of back-end development, front-end development, and something. They would be having that. There would be a competition between people because we know this downfall we are going through, and then there are people who are working hard. So companies would be preferring people who are kind of all rounder. They would be having knowledge of front end or back end or DevOps, something which is having like multiple aspects to which adds multiple aspects to their personality would be getting hired. And for job roles, definitely few of the lower end job roles would be getting cut off as of I can see, like basic things. It can be automated. We only are automating things many, so I understand that basic level of system administration admin job could not be relevant in coming years. I'm just making a guess. But if you know core level of fundamentals and you can build on top of that, then definitely it is going to help. And not just limiting yourself to one technology, one tool, or that's what I explained. Not limiting yourself to thing, having a wide exposure of things in tech is going to help. And I have seen people getting roles in these months, like to tell you, like my friends are getting job roles and they are getting those high packages, if you ask me, Ganesh. But they are having that experience and skill set
Skills
to
and
show
yeah,
in their resume. And the only problem is no, that we build a resume, we keep on applying, and then we say that market is low.
that is not going to help. That you are not doing that. 10,000 other people are doing the same thing. So you need to bridge out a gap between that individual and the individual which gets a job. You have to try some extraordinary ways or some unorthodox ways to get into the mailing list of a company or something you need to do extra which normal people are not doing, like what we I am doing. What to give you my example, I started this Twitter journey and everything, so just to get the eyeballs. You're getting my point. You need to do
Yeah,
something
get it.
extra to you need to do something extra to get that role. It is not going to be that easy. You apply, you get interviews, and you'll get the job. No, it is not going to work like that. You have to do put in some extra effort in terms of your portfolio, in terms of your projects, in terms of your making people believe that you are able to do those work if given chance to.
Agree.
So that if you are going that route, kudos to you, and definitely there are jobs. There are jobs.
I
I can.
Yeah, and the from the previous podcast that I did and previous episode that I did with the people, they suggest the same thing. If you have
Hmm,
skills, the market is huge for
hmm,
you. You can
hmm,
crack like big uh, paid
hmm,
package.
yes,
And
yes,
but if
yes.
you don't have skills and if you're just building resume, a lot of people doing the same thing. So you
Hmm,
have to separate yourself, or you have to just like somehow you have to build skills and stand
hmm.
aside, right?
Yeah.
You have to make believe people that you're able to execute that
Hmm,
particular, you're able to build that particular application or particular problem.
hmm,
And
hmm,
yeah, like I think open source, you can show the proof of work to the
hmm, hmm,
audience as well. And as you mentioned Twitter, so
hmm,
I from very uh, last time that I'm suggesting to people to get on Twitter, be a part of tech community, and
hmm,
you will get better idea or the better connections how you can reach out people for a job or internship.
hmm.
So yeah, this stuff to
Yeah.
add from my side.
To, yeah. To be frank, you don't need to reach out. Also, people would be pinging you in DM.
Yeah,
I have got that opportunity from Twitter as well. So people would be pinging you. You should be able to show your work. That's it. So I
agree.
have seen that from Twitter, and yeah, that is all what I wanted to say. Yeah,
And how do you see the AI in the DevOps side? Like
yeah,
for developers, as you mentioned, a lot of jobs are going to replace just like admin, system
mm,
administration that you mentioned, because
mhm,
people believe in automation in current
mhm,
scenario,
mm,
and
mm,
AI is doing a lot of automation stuff. As well as there are a lot of platforms, low code platforms, where you
mm,
can just simply write a prompt or
mm,
simply pick particular component and build websites. You don't need to
mm,
code even, and it will
mhm,
generating a really great websites. But
mm,
for the front end developers, it's also another scary thing. So
mm.
like how you see the AI in a development DevOps market
Yeah, yeah. So we have this in DevOps. To be limiting myself to DevOps point of view, there are two aspects of it: ML ops and AI ops, which are into the budding state. Basically, ML ops is nothing. We would be whatever machine learning project we were doing that in past. Those were we getting automated with these prompting techniques and everything. But yeah, to consider it as a job care point of view, I would not be agreeing on that because it is going to take 5, 10 years, 15 years from here. I'm just making an assumption as of
from
now,
right now
Ganesh.
there?
But yeah, from right now, it is going to take because most of the things it is emotional centric. Like AI cannot sense those things which are the core requirements of a business or a client. So that thing for that reason we would be there. We would be modifying things, but it is a good thing to be having hold of that knowledge, and with that knowledge we can in how to explain that uh, in fact the basic thing is you should not be getting scared out of it. You should be learning those things like prompting techniques. Basically all those prompts you should be learning things, whatever skill set you have currently. On top of that, build some prompting techniques or use those AI to enhance your skill set. That is going to help you in future. And who is going to write those AI prompts, or who is going to do those things? If
Definitely
you are having
agree.
that knowledge, then you are going to do it. No, there would be, like there are certain roles would be popping up like prompt engineer and something like that. Next 5 years it would be other role. That's what I said, continuously evolution of yourself and learning those things would definitely help you. Don't fear out of it, learn those things and see how you can improve on top of that. So basically that is the one thing you can do. Because anyway, Ganesh, we cannot predict those things and be in a hole that yeah, AI is going to take my job. I would not be doing these things. No, it is not going to help you. Learn those things and improve continuously. There would be demands of engineers who are having those skill sets. So yeah.
That's yeah, agree. Because somewhere you have people to write about
Hmm.
AI automation algorithms and that stuff. You need
Hmm.
developers to do that.
Hmm.
Scare don't scared from that. Upskill yourself,
Hmm.
and that's the only key. You can
Yeah,
go for it, and
yeah.
it will
Just
take
to
long
add
time
it,
to replace.
yeah, just to add that we should be focusing on the process. If we are not able to do things like we don't have any control on it, no, Ganesh. So why to think that? Why to think on that route? Focus on things which you can control. So you can control
Agree.
on
Yeah,
upskilling yourself, improving yourself, making yourself a better version than your yesterday. So that focus on that and keep improving as time passes. And if you are going to rely on this AI thing, this buzzword, no, it just creates a negative sense inside you, and then you would not be able to make efforts which you could have done if you would have not focused on that particular area. Getting my point? So we should be
agree.
restricting
Yeah,
ourselves from that and try building ourselves. That's what my point is.
yeah. And tell us about the salary growth in IT. Just like you started with a software development thing,
Okay.
Java, and then you shifted to DevOps. Like how salary grows as a
Uh,
DevOps engineer, how much you make in IT.
yeah, so again, DevOps engineer, I've seen 3.5 LPA and 35 LPA both. So I'm just telling you that it again depends on which skill set you bring on table for the recruiter.
Table, yeah,
Yeah. So for example, I'll just explain a journey of one of my friends. He started with this one small MNC, 2.5 LPA, 2021 pass out, and then he got into one startup, 8 LPA, just to learn front end skills. I'm just giving you an aspect because I cannot make it general. So just
yeah.
to
I
give you
agree.
an example, 8.5 LP, and he did some quality work there, improved on his skill set, and got to a 22 LPA base salary at this moment. But this is how the thing proceeds. If you are continuously learning, we cannot generalize things like there are people who
And
are
how
continuously
much
working.
time it takes to go grow? Just like start with
uh,
3.85 LPA, then 8
No,
LPA. Like
yeah, that is what the beauty with DevOps and this development role is. You can be sitting at 3.5 LPA, but you can ask 35 LPA if you have that good contribution and you have shown people that I can do things. Uh, I have done things they would not be asking your previous paycheck. So that's what I have seen people getting. Just quoting a number, if you are going in a normal route doing things, the average salary is 8 9 LPA to a fresher. They would be basically expecting this, and then from 8 9 LPA you can go to 15 20, and this how it is totally dependent on the individual how he or she is proceeding into it. Getting my point? The thing is,
agree.
Ganesh, that I would not be able to quote a number because I've seen people growing like they are getting like 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs a month. My juniors, I've seen them through open source contribution, and they were not even getting 10,000. They were not able to crack 10,000 rupees internship. So it completely boils down to your skill set, what you have to show to the recruiter. And there are a hell lot of companies which are offering like anything.
I, uh,
Companies have
I
huge
I
money.
recently see the lot of companies. Yeah.
Companies have like are on to the level they can offer you like 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs. I'm quoting things because I've seen my friends making it.
Yeah.
So that is the point, Ganesh, I wanted to make. And then you should not be focusing on salary. Yaar. It should be coming to you directly. You should be focusing on skill set, and then
Skill set.
those companies would only be telling you, okay, we are paying this is a $50,000 job we are giving you. Just calculate it. You'll be able to make.
Yeah, and at the end, it takes time, but
Hmm.
skills,
Takes time.
dedication, hard work that
Takes
you're
time.
doing.
Takes time. Takes time. You need to be patient. You need to be showing that you cannot. I'm talking today. I've told you these tools. You go and study for a month and then expect a 50 lakh or 60 lakh. It's not going to work like that. It takes time. You need to be disciplined enough to focus on it. And if you're being consistent for like 6 months, definitely you can improve a lot of things in your resume, in your life, in your technical aspect, and that would definitely give you better rewards in future.
Yeah. That's great.
I'm just
And
telling to don't get disheartened if you're not getting job or if you're not having that particular role which you dreamt of. It's always a 6 month away game thing. But minimum thing I'm telling you that 6 months to 1 year, if you put focus, put all of your energies, you are going to make something big which you haven't expected. I've told you that
agree.
example of
I
my friend. He was
I
not getting
I
any.
seen some
Yeah,
examples.
yeah. Yeah. I've told you that example of my friend. He was not getting that internship of 10,000 rupees. Now he's earning 3 lakhs a month. So focus on skill set. You'll get what you deserve.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great conversation. And anything that you want to add to the people who want to get into DevOps or get looking for a jobs? Last part.
Yeah, just to end it, Ganesh, the one and final tip would be that you cannot get a job like traditional way, which people used to do like 5, 10 years ago. It is going to be very difficult for you if you are going that route. You need to get people see your work. You need to get that eyeballs, and you need to do put in some extra effort. If you see a market, uh, not market, if you see whole this tech community, you can easily recognize 200 people, 250 people who are having that kind of influencer. I'm not quoting that big influencers, but people who are really putting it at effort. And then if there is an opportunity, why not that recruiter would give it to that person in place of you? Getting my point? You can be a skilled person and on top of the game of your things, and but you are not able to showcase it, so there's no point. So showcasing your work and would definitely give you the opportunities. That is one tip I would suggest. And normal way applying won't be helping you. Cold emailing and whatever we discussed, right? Those things you have to be keeping yourself aside with the crowd and putting in some extra effort to get that role. And you have to. It's not like someone is going to give you. You have to grab it. You have to pull out of from some other's pocket, something like that. And there are a hell lot of opportunities. It's not like you are taking it from some other person. There are many opportunities, but you have to be at that level to get that.
Agree. Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, these are the things that you have to mention if you're in DevOps or looking to get into DevOps or looking for jobs. Just focus
Hmm.
on skills. Don't learn multiple tools. Learn
Hmm.
particular tools and keep growing it. Build
Hmm.
some small projects because you know the basics of building development. That'll be very great. They get into develop DevOps side. That helps you a lot. And yeah, keep patience. If you if you're dreaming particular company or particular role, you will get there. Just keep patient and keep working on yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's a great conversation with Amit. Thanks, Amit,
Hmm.
for coming and sharing all the learning that you have. I really appreciate, because
Hmm.
DevOps is something that recently grown up. A lot of people look into it as a uh, career break or as a new to learn and get into job. So that's I want to highlight to the people and get into someone. So yeah, I really appreciate you come and share your learnings. That really appreciate.
Thanks, Ganesh. It was my pleasure. Vicky.
Yeah.
Thanks.